Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Sorry about the voice. I've had a sinus infection and I've got about 50% of my voice back. But as you can tell, it's not 100%. So I hope you can hear me okay. I didn't turn off the dehumidifier and that might have helped. But I wanted to quickly sit down and talk to you guys about some stuff that's been going on. And one of these things I'm going to add to. I'm going to come back later and give you some more information. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my health stuff, because I think one way we learn from each other is to talk about things. So back in 1996, I was diagnosed with, at the time was called fibromyalgia. And all they knew at that time was that a lot of people shared some common symptoms and seemed to have some relief with some common treatments, but it wasn't necessarily understood, still not understood. But they've learned more about it, and now it's called fibromyalgia. Forgot what it was there for a sec. But fibromyalgia or fibromyalgia is a syndrome, which means that there's not really any tests for it. It's a diagnosis based on symptoms and ruling out of other diagnoses. So they did all sorts of tests, make sure I didn't have arthritis, that my thyroid was okay, blood tests were okay, all this kind of stuff, and I got labeled fibromyalgia. Now, one reason why I got labeled this and knew to seek out, is what I'm experiencing this, is because my mother also has fibromyalgia. And she was first diagnosed with it, and since we had a lot of the same symptoms, she said, why don't you go to your doctor and see if they think this is what it is. My doctor is very blunt with me. And this is my doctor that I had during college. He was very blunt with me. He said, I don't necessarily believe in fibromyalgia, but I do believe that I have a lot of patients that have a lot of the same symptoms. And so something's going on. I can accept that. So they started me off on Elavil, also known as amitriptyline. Amitriptyline is one of those go-to medications that, yes, it's an antidepressant, but it seems to help with a bunch of different things. One of the things that it has is anti-inflammatory properties. And so they put me on that. Kind of noticed a little bit of help initially. It took a little bit though. They started me off at 25 milligrams. Didn't feel anything until I hit 100 milligrams. The only side effects I had were weight gain and cotton mouth. I was trying to think, it was a long time ago. I was trying to remember what the other thing was. Those are the only side effects I got. It didn't make me tired or anything like that, which is good, except that I had problems falling asleep at night. So Dad would say, well, did you take your drugs? And I would say, yeah, Dad, I took my drugs. I didn't have the typical side effects that most people get with it. Through the years, that stopped working. They've tried me on all sorts of things, including Cymbalta, Celexa. I've been on Zoloft at one point in combination with gabapentin and guaifenesin. I've got some cats. I don't know if you can hear them, but the baby's looking at me like, why don't you hold me? I've tried all sorts of medications. Right now, I'm on gabapentin. I've been on it for 14 years now. I was actually placed on it for another medical condition. I'm actually on it for hypersomnia. And after the first night, I immediately noticed a difference in my feet. And so, and the sleep doctor stopped prescribing the gabapentin because he would only go up to 800 milligrams because that was as much as it would go for his scope of things, the sleep issues. My PCP, my primary care physician, continued my gabapentin till I hit the max dose, which is 3,200. 8 times 4, 3,200 milligrams. And that's what I've been on for about 13 years. And I would only take the morning one when I was working. So on the days I wasn't working, I did not take the 800 milligrams. But I was taking 2,400. I got my numbers wrong. I was taking 2,400 milligrams at night. So it's 3,600 is your maximum dosage. I'm now seeing a new neurologist who's now cut me back to 1,600 milligrams at night and taking 800 milligrams in the afternoon along with my 800 milligrams in the morning. Now, things have kind of changed from there. About a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, my feet pain was so bad, which actually the feet pain is not part of, if you look at the 3 graces or do any of the research on fibromyalgia, it doesn't really pinpoint pain points on the feet. But I was having, that's where I have most of my pain is my feet. So I was seeing a podiatrist for my pain in my feet because I was crying by the time I was leaving work. And he diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis, which is down the middle of the foot. I'll try to post some diagrams to show this a little bit better. Plantar fasciitis. Tendonitis, which is along the side of the foot, the outside of the foot, and then part of the heel. And then the plantar fasciitis was also part of the heel. And then I also was diagnosed with Morton's neuroma, which is a nerve in the ball of the foot, where the toes, so if this is my foot, heel, outside, the tendonitis came down and around like this. The plantar fasciitis came down through here. And then the Morton's neuroma, I've got really long toes. The Morton's neuroma is the part right there, the ball of the foot that connects to the toes. I was having that there. So he said, you've got all these different pain points, and you've got the different pain points because you keep walking at different points on your foot depending on where the pain is. So you gotta walk flat on your foot. And I was like, well, it's hard to walk flat on your foot when it hurts. So at any rate, he did some treatments with me, and we got to where the plantar fasciitis and the tendonitis were better. But I was still having some pain. The treatments kind of plateaued. And he agreed, after doing cortisol shots in my heel and that not helping, it is extremely painful. I was having pain travel up my foot. He agreed to refer me to a neurologist for testing to see if I had I can't remember the technical term, but it's like carpal tunnel in your ankle. Tarsal tunnel, I think is what it is. See if I had that, or if I had a neuropathy, or if I had something else going on. So, went and saw the neurologist. He referred me for an EMG and NCV test. EMG is electromyography, test was an NCV or an NCS, nerve contact velocity or nerve contact study. So I went to have that done. I Googled on YouTube to see what it was about, that sort of thing, and I was nervous about it, because at least the needle part of it, because I do not like needles. But the nerve contact velocity, the NCV, was basically they take some points along your leg or arm or wherever they're testing and measured points, and then they take a machine and at a certain nerve send a shock and then measure the response of your nerves. That was more painful than I thought it was going to be. I thought I could handle that, no problem. But when they hit certain points, it was pretty painful. The electromyography was the one that I was nervous about, and that was the needle one, the EMG. And what they do is they stick a needle into the muscle and measure the reaction of the muscle, the nerve response within the muscle or something like that. I'm not a doctor. Do some research on it. That was extremely painful for me, at least the first one that I had done. And I'll talk about that here in a sec. But I did that test, and then a couple of days later I got a phone call saying that they diagnosed me with mild peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy has a couple of things. There's different things to it. The most common ones, and these might be the only ones, but from the research that I've done, it could be large fiber neuropathy, which has different symptoms than small fiber neuropathy, which has other symptoms. The EMG and NCV test for the large fiber neuropathy. And so that's the peripheral neuropathy that they were saying that I had. So, okay. So, went back to the podiatrist. I ended up quit going to him. Bottom line is, he did help me, but bottom line is I felt he's being condescending with some things, and I did not appreciate that. So I quit going to him. I ended up messaging the neurologist that recommended the testing, and I asked him, I said, here's a bunch of questions I have. Can you answer any of these? Can we set up a meeting for me to talk about some of this stuff? And he said, well, we've got two options. I can set you up with another neurologist who is good at diagnosing the causes and all this kind of stuff, because I'm not diabetic. I haven't had any cancer treatments, which is another thing that can cause neuropathy. I hadn't thought of at the time any severe traumas or anything like that. I still don't think I've had any that would qualify, but I have stepped on nails, so maybe. We didn't know what was causing my pain, and I just wanted answers. So he said I could go to another neurologist who specializes in neuromuscular, a neuromuscular specialist, or neurophysiology, I believe is another name for it, because that's what this neurologist is a that word. I'm not going to try to say it without looking at it. Another thing that's happened with all of the pain and meds and getting older is my brain's turned to mush. But my word recall is really bad. So I have to look at the word to see what I'm trying to say. He's a neurophysiologist. Got it. He could refer me to a pain clinic. And in my field of work that I work in, the only thing I know pain clinics to do is monitor pain medications and put you on pain meds. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to a pain specialist. I got to function at work, and I don't want to go down that road yet if I don't have to. So he referred me to a neurologist who had his first meeting with me, and we went through my symptoms and that kind of stuff. And I actually have written out kind of a history of all my pains, and I started the letter off. This is probably too much information, but you sort out what's important, what's not. But here's all my different pains. He didn't take the letter the first session. He said, let's skip that for right now. He wanted me to ignore the diagnoses I had been given. He said, just describe your pain. And that's really hard for me to do on the spot. So I tried my best. And he goes, based on his physical examination and based on his interview and what I was describing, he says, I don't know if you have neuropathy. So he recommended another test, EMG and NCV, as well as a bunch of other tests, lab tests, all that kind of stuff. And so I had the second EMG and NCV almost a year later, little over a year later, somewhere about there. And he said, we're going to do a smaller needle. It should be less painful, and that was true. It was less painful. I did a lot better with that one. It was still painful in spots, especially there's a bump spot on the top of my foot that they stick the needle in, and that really hurt. Luckily, he didn't stick it in the arch of my foot like the first test. That one hurt so bad I couldn't understand what the doctor was trying to tell me to do. So, we did all that. He goes, so the results of the second test, you don't have neuropathy. And then he kind of backpedaled a little bit and he goes, well, you at least don't have large fibroneuropathy. So I haven't had my meeting with him since that test. Then we're working on things and kind of going from there and seeing what we can do. But I wanted to go ahead and at least give a starting point for where I'm at with my different pains. And because one of my questions was, how do I know, because I've always blamed my feet pain on fibro. And I said, how do I know what's the difference between my fibro pain and what might be something else causing pain? Because I've ignored the foot pain for so long because I thought it was fibromyalgia. And so that's why we're on this journey that we're on now. And it's revealed some other stuff that I'm going to talk about as well. And I wanted to talk about my journey with possible neuropathy and where we're going, and kind of go from there. Some of the other things that he recommended was physical therapy. So I've been doing that. And that's helped some, I think. Right now my feet are feeling pretty good, but I don't know if that's because of the PT or if that's because I've been taking sinus medication and cough medication that has some codeine in it. So that might be why my feet are feeling better. So I'm kind of waiting and seeing with that. We did some more toxins. We did regular labs again because it had been since December of 2017 since I had done my labs, regular labs. Sugar levels were fine. My A1C was fine. And I didn't realize that the A1C is tested separately from when they're testing your sugar. So I'm learning a lot along the way with this. My B levels, B12, B6, whatever, they're all fine. My vitamin D is fine. So trying to find out what the cause of the pain is a little daunting. But as I go along, I'll give you guys updates. And sorry that this is so long. And the updates will be shorter since I was giving you a lot of backstory with this. But I'm going to also include some other clips of some other things we found along the way. So I will talk about those and how I'm doing with those journeys. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll answer any questions I can. And oh, one of the other things he recommended, almost forgot about this because this is going to be one of the things I talk about, is he recommended I go on a heavy plant diet or a Mediterranean diet. I love my meat, so abstaining from meat completely has been hard, and I'm going to talk about that. But I chose the Mediterranean diet because at least I get some meat with it. And a lot of my family history, which I'm going to do a video on that as well because I think it's interesting stuff. But it also talks about my genealogy, my ancestry. A lot of it is in the Mediterranean area. So I'll talk about some of that as well. But I'm going to give updates on the neuropathy, not neuropathy. I'm going to give updates, and that will include the fibro. I'll give updates on the Mediterranean diet. I'm going to give you updates on some liver stuff that came up, that's some of the new stuff. Wonderful what testing will find. And the genealogy stuff, I'm going to talk about some. So welcome to my channel. I don't know how often I'll put the videos out, but I hope you guys enjoy the content I do put up. I'm not doing this for money or anything like that. I don't have a Patreon account. I'm not doing ads or anything like that. I hate ads myself, so I'm not going to put anybody else through that. But I hope you enjoyed the channel. It's taken me a while to get to this point, and we'll see you in the future. Thanks. Bye.